Hi, I'm Jessica G, and this is the Just in Time podcast. If you're struggling today, I want you to know this podcast is here for you, but it's not a substitute for professional help. If you're in a crisis or feel unsafe, please call or text 988 or dial 911 for immediate support. There are people out there who will listen and can help. On this show, I'll be sharing personal experiences, mindset shifts, talking with key experts, and sharing real tools that help me go from barely surviving to thriving. This is not about quick fixes or one-size-fits-all advice. It's raw, it's honest, it's what worked for me and what I believe can help others too. Let's walk together from darkness to hope. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Just in Time podcast. I am so excited to introduce to you Diego Martinez. He is a therapist, a psychologist, and one of my really good friends who actually introduced me to Dr. Joe Dispenza. Because of Diego's belief in neuroplasticity and in the work that Dispenza does, it led me down that same path. So when I told you guys I was sitting on the beach and my friend Diego and Karsten had told me, hey, you just need to reprogram your brain. He is here now and he's joining us live. So welcome, Diego. We're so happy to have you.
Thank you for having me, Jessica. I really appreciate it. I'm very excited. So I'm very excited to talk about this topic because like you were mentioning, how this start. It sounds easy when you just say, okay, just change your mind or your mindset, but it is not so easy. But once you are there, enjoying the process and see the result, I think that pushes us to keep continuing with this. So
yeah. And Diego saw me when I was in that dark night of the soul moment. You know, he was there and he's so funny. He's like running on the beach, you know, because he's in really good shape and always doing fitness. And he's like, you just need to reprogram your brain, Jessica. And I'm like, what the heck is he talking about? He's like, no, I am serious. And I'm like, okay. And so like, here we are. And, you know, I literally feel like that was just a godsend. I do not know if I would be here today if you and Karsten had not introduced me to Dr. Joe Dispenza's work. Like, it's an actual miracle that I'm here today because it gave me hope. And then after doing the work and seeing the results, I was like, wow, everybody needs to know about this. And that's what led me to open the nonprofit. And I mean, you're also, you know, a testament to, you're also like a teacher at the university, you're a professor
I'm a
at the
professor in
university as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's like between, let's see, I don't know, was it, let's see, 8 years ago now? I believe it's about 8 years ago. So within 8 years, like we've really manifested our personal reality. And it's so exciting to be where we're at because Diego actually and we met in Costa Rica. So I'd always been on this like spiritual journey to try to find the answers, like why. And one of my ex-boyfriends actually died by suicide. And I like did not know what to do. And I knew he was struggling. And I just said, we need to go to a psychologist. We need to go to a psychologist. But, you know, he was an older man and he didn't want to get help. And so I actually Googled or YouTube, why do people kill themselves? And the only video that came up that made sense to me was Teal Swan.
Okay, running.
So I said, you know, I'm going to go to Costa Rica and I'm going to go to Teal Swan's retreat and I'm going to ask these questions. And that's where I met Diego and Karsten.
Right. And funny enough, Carson and I also, we went to Costa Rica because we love to read spiritual books or things related to, let's say, yoga, meditation, or spirituality or psychology in general. And somehow this one resonated with us. We were also going through difficult moments at that time. So, and we were just searching for a different kind of help because like you were also trying different ones and somehow it didn't match with you at that time. We felt the same. And somehow then we thought, okay, we might go there. And then we ended up in Costa Rica. We met you there. We went through a wonderful experience, I will say, after all, a lot of learning experience. That was incredible too.
Yeah, and I mean, remember you had found out that your dad passed away at that time.
Imagine, imagine
And
on top of that, going through difficult moments. Then, when I was there, I mean, my family just called me and told me that unfortunately my father passed away. I was in shock. It was really hard already, and on top of that, even worse with that.
and I
So,
remember that night that your father passed away was the night that my dad called me and said that he didn't want to live anymore. And I did not know what to do. And I sent him some Tilt One videos because, suicide education and prevention information wasn't really talked about. It's still really not talked about. We're barely scratching the surface in mental health awareness. And because there's such a stigma, especially with older men, they're meant to be tough and this and that.
you know,
And,
this
you know,
situation, we are not prepared to deal with this situation when we are maybe not taking so seriously, or we might be in shock, or like you said, nobody's teaching us because it's like a taboo or something.
yeah,
And
I didn't know what to do. I sent him a Till Swan video and I know it was like completely over his head, but I wish I would have had the training now. And I think part of being like a suicide loss survivor is like kind of letting go of that guilt as well. Because sometimes I would beat myself up about it, but I'm like, he was the parent, I was the child, and it's so hard though because we love everybody, we want everybody to make it, and I did I was still struggling at that time with my own suicide ideation. I was like trying to find a way, and I think one of the things that we want to talk about today is that sometimes it takes a multitude of things to get somebody to the point in which they can get help, like true help, or a multitude of coping mechanisms or possibly medication from the doctors or whatever it is to finally get to a point where your mind can kind of calm down a little bit out of survival mode enough to fully grasp the idea of neuroplasticity. And I think you had mentioned something about your mother that you wanted to share as well. Um,
well, yes, actually, well, for sure, if I'm going to connect that topic with my mother, for example, when my father just passed away, she couldn't handle the situation very well. So let's say that she had a lot of anxiety, she was depressed, and her mood was changing, and I mean, she had hallucinations, and she was going through something difficult. And somehow, the only help that it works for her after trying different ones, it was when we found the right medication for her. Because normally people have a huge stigma, or they relate something negative to any kind of medication. And perhaps it might be, but it depends on the experience. But me as a professional, and also talking about my mother's experience, I thought, and I was just speechless, how a huge change was in her life, where finally her brain, the whole system was stable. Once she was stable, she was ready then in order to accept other kinds of helps. Before, she wasn't ready, so the medication was, it changed her life. So
Yeah. So
yeah.
that just goes to show that, it's not one single thing that will work for somebody that's struggling with mental health or suicide ideation. Like for me, I went and I got on medication and I did counseling and I did this and I did that. Like I was losing hope because a lot of those things weren't working. But if I really truly look back at the time, those things really could have helped me um get to the point in which I was sitting on that beach with you and Karsten and you guys told me about Dr. Joe Dispenza, right? So we just never know. We never want to like discount anything because what I don't want people to think is like, oh my gosh, just in time they just started about neuroplasticity and reprogramming the brain and that's it. No, I think that like that, seeing a therapist or your doctor, psychiatrist, and figuring out what works specifically for that person. Yeah, now to this day, like, do I take antidepressants? No, I don't. But it took me a while to get to that point. So it's not that they're bad. It's just that my brain finally got to a place where my brain became its own pharmaceutical company, and it produced the correct hormones. And yeah, and with working out and just, after a certain amount of time of, reprogramming the brain and changing negative thought patterns, then you start seeing the results also within your body. So I don't want to exclude any kind of help like that. I just think that this is something like in addition, like people need to talk about. Like when I was in the clinics, like nobody talked about reprogramming the brain specifically, because it's like we are running on a subconscious program. And if we don't change that, right? Because you were talking about earlier, like for some people, we were talking about men that are afraid to reach out because they don't want to be seen as weak. And we said, okay, what's one thing that they could do? And I believe you said, just change one small thing. Just find one small thing. And the point is to do something different, right? Can you elaborate a little bit on that?
Well, yes, for sure. And when Karsten and we were so in love with Dr. Joe Dispenza, because actually we also love the idea how he's mixing the holistic approach, but also the scientific one, and using neuroscience facts. So like this, actually, you can really believe about this and make the most also with the placebo effect, which is connected with the pharmacy that we have in our brain, creating neurotransmitters and hormones, and are creating benefits in our whole system. And once we have all these benefits, we can be in an equilibrium or homeostasis and then be ready for new changes in our life. Because otherwise, if we don't make changes, we can be stuck only in the negative things. And how can we start creating something new in our life if we don't realize, or if we are not so aware that actually we are repeating patterns all the time, and therefore we create the same experience? We need to create new
Yes.
experience.
And you have to, because pain is and memories are in the past. So you have to create your future. Don't keep recreating your past. And I think, in a couple of weeks, we're going to bring, I'm looking for a therapist. Actually, I think I found her, who works with veterans and deals a lot with PTSD. Because one of the things, I cannot wait to ask her a multitude of questions. One of the things that I dealt with, because I actually was the second person to find my brother, and, to see somebody like that you love, dead in front of you can be very traumatizing. And so I had PTSD of, the same thoughts of running up the stairs, finding him, yada, yada, yada. I don't want to get graphic, but it was replaying in my mind at night. And so I was running on subconsciously, my brain is just running. And it was just recreating from my past. And so I no longer struggle with that. But there would be certain things for a long time that would like trigger me.
Mm-hmm. You said trigger. Yeah, I just thought about it too. I'm sorry for interrupting you.
No,
I
no, no,
just
go for it.
I just thought about the trigger because sometimes when we want to create new changes and we feel a little bit of trigger, especially an emotional one, we already run away from this. We don't want to feel this pain, or this is something new, or the unknown, and therefore I prefer just what I know, and my brain stays with the familiar. That's what Dr. Joe
Yes.
also teaches a lot. The
So it
brain
takes
loves,
discipline.
right?
That is the perfect point, Diego. I'm so glad you brought that up. This is literal gold right here. So when those triggers come up, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's just like sitting in meditation when your body is like twitching and this and that, and you're trying to focus, but it's the same thing. And like the more healed we become, and the more we reprogram, the less triggers that we're having to deal with, because we're fighting through them. And the brain is like, no, we're not doing that. But yeah, so you brought up such a good point, because I think the reason why this is brought up right now, and intuitively, like what's just like flowing through me right now, is that if people do go and try this, what we don't want to happen is like that they tried it and then it doesn't work for them because they get that trigger and then they push the work away. But you can't do that. You have to have discipline. You have to push through it. And I think the reason why we're here today is to talk about, like, if people actually believed that this work actually works, then they would do it. So I think it's more about getting people to believe that neuroplasticity works, right? Because if you
Right.
believe it
Yeah.
works, then you're going to push through it and you're going to do it. And I was listening to Dr. Joe Dispenza yesterday morning, and he was talking about, as a perfect example, he was talking about how he was like back on his ranch and he was riding his horse, and the horse is like, has all these like different things, like, oh, there's a mare over there, or oh, I think I'm gonna like walk over here, and it wasn't following the program that, or riding
Okay.
what he wanted to ride, because he hadn't been working with the horse for long enough, right? So it's like something that you have to like keep doing so we can get rid of bad habits, so we can get rid of bad thought processes. And I think that's what you were talking about earlier, is like, just start with one small thing and just focus on one thing that you can change. Because if you keep doing the same thing, we're going to get the same results. We're going to have the same thought processes. We're going to have the same experiences, which create the same memories. And then it goes in this loop, and you're running on this subconscious program, and then you're in survival mode and you never get out. And then what ends up happening is your body can only run on survival mode for so long. And I think that is the point that I was at when we were in Mexico on the beach. I was losing all hope because I was just trying every single thing. So that's why
And
I'm so passionate about this.
connecting this, you said something important, which is about belief. Start believing in something strongly, not in the way that you are just, let's say, I'm not sure if it's okay to say lying to yourself or something. It is more about being optimistic, create new
Like,
hopes in
fake it
your
till
life.
you make it.
Right.
To kind of create the feeling, right? So like
Because also because to start creating new changes, first of all, like Dr. Joe is teaching, the long story short is that, well, you have already patterns. It is hard to break all patterns because the brain loves the familiar things. And especially sometimes if it is negative, the brain can be addicted to negative things too. So we need to start creating neural pathway. How? Creating new changes, but it is not easy. And like this, connecting with our emotions, we have to also connect not just the action, we need to be connected with that and what's the meaning of that for us, or what we want to create or approach, just to increase more our feelings and emotion with this experience. And if it doesn't work, we try another one and another one.
or keep trying. And that's the thing.
Exactly, and keep trying in order to see results. And it doesn't matter if you don't see it yet, but it's something different.
It's just like the gym. It's just like going to the gym. You're not going to see the results the next day. It's just like planting a seed. It's not going to grow the next day. And I think
It is
that, like,
like,
yeah, he says neurons that fire together wire together. So you have to do it for a certain amount of time for those neurons to fire and wire together. And then once you've gotten to that point, and I think, Diego, honestly, the more people talk about neuroplasticity, the more they understand it, the more their lives are going to change, because the more they're going to believe in it. And I think that is truly where we're at. It's like, if people really believed in it, they would be like, wow. Because for me, I'm like, this is a superpower, right? Like neuroplasticity.
but that's the point, because also he teaches a lot. I mean, Dr. Joe, right? He teaches a lot how powerful is our brain, our thoughts, our emotions, and like you said before, all the pharmacy that we have in our brain. It is true. We are really strong. We are powerful human beings. We are not just aware, maybe, how powerful and strong we can be actually if we.
Yes.
You know what I mean? You know where I'm trying to go.
Yes. And when you guys spoke that to me, when I was very, very low, when I was just dark night of the soul, when you spoke that to me, you called me a genius on the beach. And then after I started doing his work, because in Dispenza, he goes, turn to the person next to you and say, it's nice to meet you, I'm a genius, or something like that.
I remember because you watch all the videos. For Carson and I, it took days to watch the whole thing, and you just finished the next day, and you just didn't remember that. For you, it was not just remembering; it was also about
It was death
explaining
or
that.
life. It was death or life for me. Like, I
I
was
knew.
clinging and hanging on to every single words, because
And we noticed that when we were talking about it.
yeah, I mean, thank God, Diego. Like, I mean, you're an angel to me, truly.
And I think
Like,
somehow, we all humans are going through ups and downs. And at that time, when I was just reading about Dr. Joe, or before when we met in Costa Rica, I also was going through difficult moments. And when one problem is
Yeah.
already solved, a new one is coming. So, but the thing is that the more we practice and the more we learn, and especially when we try to do it and not just to read it, to put it in practice too, I think after this creating results and new changes and new experience, when the next challenge is coming, somehow my organism or my body or my soul, it is not repeating the same process of being the poor me, for example, and stay stuck. Now I'm trying to check a different way to approach something difficult. Makes sense?
Yeah. I've seen you grow so much. I'm so proud of like who we've both become. I mean, we've
It
been through
wasn't
it.
easy. It wasn't easy, but I'm so happy now with the results. But for sure,
Yeah.
it wasn't easy at all.
Well,
Um,
so after Diego and Carson told me about Dr. Joe Dispenza, they so kindly invited me to their place in Germany,
mhm.
and I needed to feel that love. And they just took me in like family, gave me a bed to sleep in, and fed me and just loved on me and took me to the advanced retreat for that whole week. We spent that whole week together, and that was a tough week. I remember for you especially too. We were all just processing emotions and pushing through things. But for me, that was like I had a major breakthrough, but we all had our own things. And I remember we created a mind movie. And I
Uh-huh.
remember you showing me your mind movie. And and now if we look at our mind movies to this day, we literally manifested like 80% of it already.
Yeah,
And it's amazing. Like I didn't know that I would finally be able to be in a position to help other people. Like I didn't know that I could touch other people's lives with in a way that I can today, you know?
I
And I
know.
think
Yeah.
that it's beautiful work. And it's so hard too, because like when people are struggling, right? And I don't know if you want to share some of your personal struggles that
Oh
you did
yeah,
with
for
me.
sure.
Yeah.
Because you just mentioned something which just touched me. Is about I've never thought that I'm going to be here now, for example, helping someone else. And before even till Swan's treatment, months ago or years ago before that event, I was going through a lot of difficult things where I, I wasn't so happy at all to stay alive. Let's say like this. I was so negative for years. I'm not even talking about months, for years, almost like non-stop. I was so in that circle. It was like an addiction too, where I was just focusing on the negative things. Everything was so negative, and I also tried different things where maybe, let's say, I was thinking not just to stay here anymore.
Like attempted suicide.
Yeah, many times I tried.
Yeah.
I
Thank you for being here, and thank you for sharing that. That's, there's not very many people that actually, and especially to be at the level in which you are today, because it's like looking at you 8 years ago or maybe 15 years ago, and then looking at you now, the way that the brain has changed, even in the 8 years that I've known you too, it's night and day. And it gives hope to other people, and especially for you being a man, like talking about that really helps give other people the courage to get the help that they need. And you offer services at your clinic. So Diego has a clinic in Paraguay called Spa
Yeah.
de la Mente. Did I say that correct?
Yeah. Well, just connecting with what you said about men in general, I think I understand what you try to say when it is about this belief system where we're supposed to be strong, we don't have emotions, or if we need help, we are not almost allowed to ask for some help, or we need to
Yeah.
resolve problems alone or whatever. And actually, that can be very dangerous. And I was included there actually, or especially sometimes where the feedback from others, let's say that they didn't support me at that time because of all this belief system. So it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy. Now connect. Oh, you want to say something?
No, no, no. Go ahead.
And now connecting with Spa de la Mente. Oh my God, Jessica. I'm just thinking about our mind movie. The clinic wasn't here. Oh, I mean, the clinic wasn't in my mind movie, but other things that were there, it happened, and I lived my dreams, and this is
Yes.
one of others. And I'm just thinking, oh my gosh, I went through so many so many difficult things, and thanks to all this learning experience, including Dr. Joe Dispenza, now finally I'm able to just enjoy life, enjoy my present moment.
Yes. And I think that, Diego, the thing that we have in common is that we're so grateful. And Dr. Joe says gratitude is the ultimate state of receivership, you
Oh my
know?
God.
And we're
No.
so grateful to like be here and be alive and to be it's a gift to be in this position for you to help others in the way that you do. And I think that what truly makes somebody like really good at their job or their craft or helping other people, especially in your industry, is that you have lived experience, Diego. So not every psychologist and therapist or psychiatrist has lived experience, right? So you're able to connect with your patients on a deeper level because you were actually there once. It's easier to empathize with people that are lost in the darkness. And I think, people ask me, why do you do this work? Because isn't it difficult to like bring up the loss of your dad and your brother and this and that? And I said, yeah. I said, but you know what though? I'm helping that little girl. That was me. That was lost once. And like I know that there's amazing, beautiful people out there and we need their light. The world needs their light. And we life can be very tough sometimes, and mental health and mental illness and suicide ideation and whatnot can it's very complex. It can be due to because there's lack of food, the environment. They could be going through abuse, child abuse. There's so many reasons why people want to kill themselves, and so but there's people that just are in this pain and they don't know how to get out because they may not have the resources. They may not hear these things, but if maybe they just hear, I can, recreate my own personal reality and I can keep believing that one day, things are going to get better and not lose hope and finally get to a point where they're out of a toxic, abusive environment or whatever it may be, they can start living a beautiful life.
Yeah, and
Um,
Jessica, I think also asking for help, it might be difficult sometimes when some people are not giving you the feedback that you are expecting, but that doesn't mean that you shouldn't or you should stop trying. In my case, it happened. But then when I found my best friend who lives in New York, and he just gave me that spark that I need in my life in order to start
yes.
again believing in something. And then, I mean, thanks to
That's
him, I
why it's
already,
the Just in Time podcast, because your friend was just in time for you.
well, in a way, yes, it is like that, Jessica. So,
Yes, I think we meet these people along the way in our journey, and they're little angels, they're little gifts from God, and it
yeah.
keeps us going, just like you and Carson that day.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that's why it's so important that we do this and we talk about this.
And to talk about that freely and openly with no restrictions in the sense that not being afraid of any kind of judgments, for example,
Yeah.
um, eh, it's a stigma like you were mentioning before. So, and funny
Yeah, I
enough,
was I was
oh,
labeled as the black sheep, the crazy one.
me too. So and it's not easy, especially when we are in that position where we don't have a voice or people are sick and tired of listening to us or whatever. It's not easy, but that doesn't mean that it is impossible. It's really hard. But after,
Right.
tell me, do you want to say something?
No, you just said possible, and what came into my mind was what happens when we get triggers, we talk ourselves out of possibility. When we get triggered or when something is hard for us
Mhm.
and it brings up difficult things and we just have to keep pushing through, and not give up. And but you actually have to do the work. There
Yeah.
was an example that Dr. Joe gave when we were at his advanced workshop, and he said a lady
Mhm.
came up to him, and I think she said, "Why are I living in Santa Fe, New Mexico?" And he was like, "Well, that person doesn't live in Santa Fe, New Mexico." And she's like, "What are you talking about?" And he's like, "Are you doing the work?" And she's like, "Well, I've been tired or this or that. Don't quote me exactly." And then goes, "Answer the question. Are you doing the work?" Well, nope. Are you doing the work? So here's the thing. It's like, if you want it bad enough, and you don't want to stay a victim to your pain, and you truly want a way out, right? Because for me, the payoff was like, I do not want to live here on this earth if I'm constantly have to coping with life. Like, I want a life where I feel powerful, right? Like you said,
Mhm.
where you don't even know your own strength, your own power. And when people are believing in you that you can reprogram your brain and create a new electromagnetic field
Yeah.
that is sending out different frequencies. And so
Right.
your personal reality and your environment, the people that you attract in your life is changing.
That's a
That,
really good point.
well, yes. And it's like, but it's like you have to be at the point where you're like, you really want it to change, though. You know what I mean? And you have to be willing to do the work. If you don't do the work, like for me, every day before I got up, after I left Cancun, right?
That's
I
it.
went back home, and I think it was maybe 3 months before we flew to the advanced workshop. During that 3 months, I
Okay.
took this work serious. Like, I did not let my feet hit the ground until I told myself I was going to have a good day. Like, I made a deal to myself, because I was like, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to go all in, and I'm going to give this everything I got. And if this doesn't work, then I can kill myself later. That's what I was telling myself. So this was my last ditch effort. And thank God that I didn't give up, and thank God that I kept pushing forward, you know?
When you were just talking about the electromagnetic field, I remember also something that we learned with Dr. Joe, but also, well, I also learned from other sources, but Dr. Joe is really good how he teaches this. It's about that we create our own reality, and sometimes we are not aware how much impact we have in our present and future. It
Because
depends.
we're running on that subconscious mind.
Exactly. And it depends on what energy and emotions we have. Somehow it's going to create some influence in our present moment. And we might create something good, something might not so good or even amazing. But we have to do the work. That's the point. We have
Yes,
to
but
put our.
what we were saying is, remember he had us do an exercise, and he said, you need, okay, so if you want to um, feel uh, freedom, right?
Mhm.
You need to like close your eyes, do your meditation, and actually experience like freedom.
Oh my God. Yeah.
He gave another example, like his daughter when wanted to go shopping. Well, she had to tune in and imagine
Mhm.
how she would feel if she got to go on the best shopping spree ever. And then
Right.
you
Yeah.
come back, and you have this energy and this feeling, because the brain doesn't know any different whether you're doing it or not. And that's the same thing with PTSD, right? When you're recreating those thoughts in your brain doesn't know the difference between if it actually happened or if it's just in your brain. Does that make
Right.
sense?
It
Like,
makes it makes sense, and especially when he tries to teach you that it is really important for you to start already tasting the flavor of the experience that
of
you
what
want.
your new life feels like.
Exactly, because your brain doesn't know exactly what is real or imagination. Because at the end of the day, the brain is creating all the neurotransmitters that's supposed to create with that experience. So therefore, prepare the whole organism for that. Because when you are aligned with that, somehow you will go and approach that direction. So, and that is connected with what you are feeling, what thoughts you have, if you are breaking or not patterns, if you are aware that because you are running in circle with old patterns and just running automatically or in a survival mode, of course you're not going to you of course you're going to be stuck there, unfortunately. So that's why it's very important to start tasting the flavor of what you want to experience, something good, something
Yes,
different.
and then your body can start craving it and getting used to that.
And you
So
get
it's
ready
like,
for that. Your focus also little by little is changing, and somehow you pay more attention to details where maybe you just didn't pay attention to something, and that's why you have some different experience, for example. Make sense?
absolutely. It's just like, and then it becomes less effort, right? So, like, for instance, when I'm brushing my teeth, I don't have to think about how to brush my teeth because I already know how to do it. So it's
Right.
a subconscious program. I'm going to keep that one, right? Because I
Mm-hmm.
don't want to have to think about how to brush my teeth.
Well,
I learned
of
that
course,
already. Yeah.
they
So,
are
like,
ones.
for other thought processes or um, difficulties in our life, bringing into awareness what are the 5 thoughts that we're thinking that are just killing us, our energy on a daily basis, and change those thoughts intentionally. Just pick one. I challenge my listeners today, like, pick one thought that, like, quiet your mind and listen to what you're hearing. Or when you look in the mirror and you see yourself, the first negative thing that you say about yourself, change it and make it positive, and then continue to do that for the next 30, 60, 90 days and see how your energy and your attitude changes
Uh-huh.
um, with that perspective. And it's amazing how we change, you know? If they say your thoughts can make you sick, right? So
Right.
if your thoughts can make you sick, then your thoughts can make you well.
For sure, it is like that. Sometimes we just want quick results, and
Yes.
that sometimes can be a little bit disappointing. But we need to keep continuing, keep doing the work.
Yeah. And again, like, if somebody is in a crisis, please don't tell them to reprogram their brain in that moment. You know, call 988 or call 911. You know, remove lethal means, make sure you're safe, make sure the other person's safe. Don't try to have this conversation at that time. I would just want to be very clear about that. This isn't the time to talk about neuroplasticity. This comes later. If someone is in immediate danger, please call or text 988. And since Diego is bilingual, did you want to say that to our
Can
Spanish
you?
speaking followers?
Yeah, I would say in Spanish, but can you remind me the numbers where
Yeah.
they
So
should
if
get?
somebody is struggling
Right.
um, or in a crisis, they can call 988, call
Yeah.
or text.
Right. Entonces, miren, si algunas personas están atravesando por momentos difíciles que tal vez estén relacionados con, por ejemplo, inclusive el suicidio, es muy importante en primer lugar no tratar de invalidarlos o decirles reprograma tu mente. Para eso existen diferentes tipos de ayudas y algunas de esos serían llamar al, call in the number again,
988.
llamar al 988 para estos casos específicos de emergencia. Done.
Perfect.
You understood a
Perfect.
bit? How is your Spanish? You need to do the work also with your Spanish, eh?
Poquito español. Que
Poquito.
bola hacer.
Jessica, something that you were saying, and I will not go through that so much because now we are here for another topic, but just because you mentioned, and I think to we cannot bring just this answer to anybody to start saying, start changing your mindset because sometimes people might not feel validate for that moment. So every person and every experience is different. That's why you were mentioning the protocol of this and where they should call. Um, so it's really important just to be aware that every situation is different and also not to invalidate people when they feel fragile, for example, because, you know,
Yeah. Yeah. You don't want to try to, like, almost like, I don't know, cheer them up or this or that. It's like, it's very hard and it's very complex, you know?
I mean,
Um,
I can just talk through my own experience, and it is like this when I was going through difficult moments, and people somehow it is not that maybe they just don't take you so seriously. You were mentioning also something about how we are now educated with these emotions and these situations, and we cope this defense mechanism in order to really deal and go through the emotions. We just try to just fix quickly, or you know.
yeah. Yeah, and we don't want to do that. We don't want to feel like like we need to fix the person, right? That almost makes them feel worse, I think. So I'm glad that you brought that up. And the last episode we had Jacqueline, she was the area director, is the area director for AFSP, and she talked a lot about that too. It's just like making sure, that you're listening and being supportive, asking them, hey, are you struggling with thoughts of suicide? Do you have a plan? And just getting the person in contact with somebody that can help them. Just safety first, because the biggest thing when it comes to suicide education or prevention when you are dealing with somebody that is in a crisis is time, because the brain will just like freak out for a certain amount of time, and the longer that time goes by, the less likely they are to do something that they would later regret. So but what else were we were gonna
You
tap into
know,
something else.
I just want to share something how Dr. Joe has a huge impact also now with this clinic here in Paraguay. So I went through university and I learned all the classic tools and they are wonderful and it helps a lot. And I'm using everything and I love it. But at the same time, some things that in university, let's say the program is not teaching you, it's about how just to approach people besides the scientific facts, which are amazing, also combined with the holistic one, for example. And that's what I had with Dr. Joe. And for example, in my clinic looked like this Balinese style spiritual retreat. Why? It has a purpose. My purpose is to create something different, something new. And when people come here, they just don't think about the symptoms and signs and the problem. Besides that, they feel here very welcome, but also they are focusing in other things and they are present with what is this. It makes sense. So we don't have the nocebo effect so much in our brain where we already start creating even more the symptoms and signs. So here we work with all the wonderful tools, but also I'm creating an atmosphere where somehow we can just be
I think
not so
environment
focused.
and feng shui is so important, and I think what you're doing is really smart. And I like also how you're um adding in all the anti-aging benefits and like really being like all inclusive. I think it's really great work what you're doing. Um but I think this concludes our episode. Is there anything else that you would like to let our followers know, Diego?
Well, wait a minute, Jessica. There are so much things. I'm just kidding. No, but actually, I mean, I mean, it happened so many things. We were after Cancun. We were in Dr. Joe Dispenza in Berlin, Germany, and then after that, well, I did other retreats too. Do you remember what other retreats you did, or?
Goodness. I did like a workshop in Sedona,
Oh, okay, okay,
Arizona.
okay, okay.
Yeah, and I did a couple of other ones, but nothing was like Dispenza. Like, oh,
Okay.
I did the advanced follow-up,
Oh,
actually.
you did. Okay.
I did the advanced follow-up. And I actually did a testimony for Dr. Joe Dispenza, and it's really hard to watch. When I go back and I look at that video, you can still see my body is in survival mode. And I think I was really, really nervous to do it, but it's kind of crazy because at that time I actually said in the interview that I did with Dispenza, I said I was going to open up a nonprofit and call it Just in Time to Save a Life before it was ever open, years before. And I actually did it, and it's amazing, and it's helping people. But it is sad to look at the video because I can see it's like it takes a while for the body to catch up with the brain. It's like my brain knew it was getting out of survival mode, but because it was in my body was still kind of in it. It was, yeah, when my heart breaks when I see that, and it reminds me of how far that I've come. But to all my followers out there, all of our listeners, just never give up and don't lose hope and keep trying and keep moving forward, because life is better with you in it. And suicide creates a ripple like effect, and it really, really hurts the people that that are left behind. And I think a lot of people don't talk about that because they feel guilty to talk about it in a way. But I have just met so many suicide survivors that are still devastated. And one of the episodes that we're going to get into later on this journey for the Just in Time podcast is diving deep into survivor loss. People who have lost loved ones to suicide and the effects that it has on them and the help that they need to get. Because for every one suicide, there's 25 other attempts. That is insane to me. So thank you guys so much for listening. Diego, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for inviting me. So I hope I can just come back again and then we can keep continuing other topics related with it.
Yes.
I'm having so much fun, but in the sense that for me, this is a serious topic, but it's so amazing to talk to someone who, I mean, somehow we are connected in many ways.
Yes.
And now to see ourselves living the life that we have is just,
yes, that's what people need. It's like you have two people that attempted suicide multiple times that are here today telling you that they no longer struggle with suicide ideation because they've reprogrammed their brain and they found a way out. And that's the program that Just in Time wants to create. It's called From Darkness to Hope. And I don't know why it's not created yet, but it's going to be. So maybe we can get Dispenza to come on and help create it with us. If you're struggling, remember, how you think is how you feel. If your feelings feel heavy, start by shifting the thought. You're not stuck. Your brain can change. So can your story. I'm Jessica G. This is the Just in Time podcast, and I'll see you next time. Until then, keep going. Never give up. And remember, the world is better with you in it, whether you believe it or not. To help reach others, please share this with your friends, family, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and donate.